I was looking at your menu a couple hours ago, and I saw the new dill sandwich. Fried dill pickles, fresh dill pickles, pickle aioli.
Oh my gosh.
Who is cultivating, who's creating these like limited time sandwiches on your team?
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big, yeah, there it is. There it is.
Welcome back to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. My name is Victoria Dickerson, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Caleb Talley and Daniel Koonce. How are you guys?
Doing well today.
Another beautiful day in Northwest Arkansas.
Absolutely it is. Well, we're excited to have Tom Gordon. He's the CEO, co-founder, and president of Slim Chickens on our show today. Tom, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being on our show, the Startup Junkies show.
You know, I've got a long history with Startup Junkies, so I'm very happy to be here.
Good. We're excited to get into it. So kind of how we start. Have you been on the show before? I think
I think I have, but
a while
it's been
ago.
quite a while,
Yeah, we're going to get back into it. So how we kind of kick things off is your genesis, your backstory. Like, tell us as far back as you want to.
Okay.
Talk about Tom Gordon, talk about Slim Chickens and how it came to be.
I'm happy to do it and love to have these kind of conversations. You know, I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I went to TCU in Fort Worth. Somehow I got in and out of there. Now that I have a child about to go to college, I can't believe I got in and out of that college. It seems to be really, really hard now. But I got my degree in finance and real estate, and I went to work for Merrill Lynch back when Merrill Lynch was not part of BA, it was its own thing. And I thought I'd be a stockbroker, wealth guy, right? And back then, you know, you could cold call people, and they stuck me in a little box, and I was cold calling old folks for bonds, which was terrible. And that lasted about 2 weeks, and the bond book went out the window, and I moved back to Little Rock. And I had a finance degree, and I went to work for Macaroni Grill back in the Mac Grill heyday when Brinker owned it. So it was an odd beginning. You know, I had this college degree in finance, but I went to work as a waiter and a bartender, and I just didn't know what I was going to do, and learned the business from the ground up at Brinker. And, you know, they, after a couple of years, and I did every job in the restaurant. I was a server, waiter, bartender, you know, chef, line chef, call the board, all that stuff. And they asked me to move to Memphis and jump over the GM that I had at the time. And, but, you know, I didn't want to do it. I was afraid. I was afraid of the paycheck. I mean, they were going to pay me, like $31,000. I was about to be rich. But I thought I'd have a car payment and a house. I just didn't do it. So I had some friends of mine that were living in Los Angeles, and I moved out there. And I continued to work restaurants, worked for Sunset Conglomerate restaurants. We had all the Miyagi sushi bars and Southern shop houses, and I tended bar, and I bought the liquor and learned to manage inventory and did some of those things out there for about 4 years. During that time, my co-founding partner, Greg Smart, called me and said, man, you know, Northwest Arkansas is growing. No one's doing a tender concept. You know, I'm doing retail, you're doing restaurants. We should combine forces. And after a couple of years of kind of planning this out, I moved back here and we got started. And we began the business in 2003. It's been 21 years. I say we were broke and destitute for the first half, and then the second half has been good. But we've managed to survive and thrive for a long time, and we've done it here in Northwest Arkansas, and we're very proud of it, and it's been great.
And that first location is right there on College?
First location on College, still there.
Yep.
You know, that building is old. Something breaks in there every day. It drives me crazy, but we're still there, and, you know, it's doing its thing.
You mentioned that you had a long history with Startup Junkie. I feel like I have a long history with Slim Chickens. Freshman year of college in that purple roof building.
Oh, yeah.
There on College.
That's
It's
right.
awesome. How many restaurants do we have worldwide now? What's our number?
We opened up 284 this week. We opened about a store week.
Wow.
We'll do about 58 new stores this year.
Wow.
I think we'll do about 70 new stores next year. That is domestic and international. We have 54 in the United Kingdom.
Wow.
That's been a great business for us. Really busy, and they're doing they're 20 out of the 70 next year. They'll do a lot of restaurants for us. I'm flying in 2 weeks to Berlin to do our first one in Germany.
Wow.
Cool.
We're doing Berlin. We're doing a 6-store deal there to begin, and then another 6-store deal in Hamburg, I think is where it is. And then we've got some other deals around the world we're working on. So, you know, the 70 next year will be about 50 domestic and about 20 international.
That's incredible.
Are
Wait.
the go ahead.
No, I was just going to say last year was spent some time in for work in Leeds in the UK, and there was a shopping center across the street from the hotel where I was staying with Parmjot Valley. I think you might know him as well. He's big Slim fan, but saw that there was a coming soon Slim Chickens sign in that shopping center. I was like, I know that.
That's right. For a short time, we sponsored the Premier League Leeds football team.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
And then they got relegated and went down. That triggered something with my guys over there. But anyway, there's a great photo I've got of, the Premier League has the banners around the field and it says Slim Chickens around it. It was super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are the majority of your locations worldwide, are those franchised?
Almost everything we do now is franchise. We have 10 stores here in Northwest Arkansas. We own those. Those are for training, for testing, for, and they do fine for us too. But the business of supporting a franchise system is entirely different than the business of running a corporate restaurant or several. I mean, our job is support. Our job is to make sure that, costs are in line, prices are right. The guys are doing the stuff as we prescribe. They're getting to the marketing program. They're not missing things. Our job is to help them make money. And look, we have ups and downs. Pricing changes, poultry, commodities, all this. We have to manage all of this. And but that's the job, and it takes time, it takes people, it takes resources to do that. And so our focus is franchising and supporting those that invest in the business.
Cool. One thing I'm curious about. I did a little stint in the restaurant industry. 6 months I worked at Tacos for Life in college. It's a learning curve. So you've been in restaurants pretty much your whole professional life. Why are you still in restaurants? Like, what is it that made you want to open a restaurant? You said you did 4 years, I think, in LA, doing restaurants, all the different types. Why did you stay in restaurants? Because that's a very hard industry.
It's hard, but there's I go to these conferences and there's lots of, private equity funds and banks and people that do restaurants. And when you get into the meat of restaurants and you own stuff and you're building restaurants, like nobody seems to leave. Like you kind of get hooked and you can't escape. And, and not that I don't want to escape. But I love hospitality. I love taking care of my fellow citizens of Northwest Arkansas and everywhere else we are. I love delivering a great product. I mean, I love hotels. I love restaurants. I love all restaurants. Like I love a deli. I love our restaurants. I love a sandwich shop. I love a white tablecloth, big champagne wine dinner. I mean, front to back. I love that stuff because I think, restaurants are all about people and you're with folks and you have a connection and you're sharing something and you're talking about how good this meal was or this wine that you bought was or whatever. And I think that shared camaraderie and the shared experience business is what I like the most. I would love to do hotel business. I love to do other restaurants. I don't yet because we're focused on what we do, but the hospitality industry is just one that I've always loved. And once you get into it and once you love it, you don't often leave it. At least a lot of guys I know don't.
Well, there's just so much community building around food in general. I feel like, makes me want to watch an episode of Parts Unknown with Anthony Bourdain or something. But there's just like that aspect that kind of ties all cultures and all people together over food. Everybody eats. Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you been at a dinner with friends or family and you eat something new and you're like, God, it's so good. Like, and try this. And where else does that happen? It happens around a table. It happens around a meal. And, you get to share that with family, friends, kids, partners, business. I mean, every business deal I've ever done has ended with some dinner. And you go to the closing dinner or the whatever. And you share that moment. And that's what's fun about the industry, about restaurants. It's what's fun about, going out and, after working in LA at bars, like, the rule is never let the party die. So you don't let the party die.
Well, there's something innately cultural about, a meal too. And so I'm curious, as you expand into new markets across the world, what's that kind of the cultural connection? Because I know Slim Chickens has a kind of a cultural DNA. How does that translate to these new markets globally?
That's an interesting question because we were not sure as we entered markets how the whole, Southern at heart stick would work. In the UK, they love it. But you reel the tape back and you're like, why? The answer is, the product is the hero. It's a product good. That's number one. It's got to be great. If you got that, you have something that people want to go try, want to go eat. And so then you can build the cultural aspects around that. But if the food's great, you got something. Because we've all been to restaurants that are slow or dirty. But the food's awesome. I mean, I don't want to be slow or dirty, but you go if the food is awesome, right? Everybody does. So if the food's awesome, you have the foundational block. Then you layer in, I think, and what we've tried to do is, it's in the UK in particular, is the sort of Americanism and the Southern hospitality and the hi, how you doing? And I tell them, just when you see people, just smile, smile, say hello, look somebody in the eye. And I tell the UK guys that, and they do it too. UK is great. I love it over there. But you gotta be overt about being friendly everywhere in the US, especially now with everybody staring at their phone all the time, looking down. Like, you have to try. And so we try.
That's really cool. I'm curious. I am not very well traveled around the world. I've only been to a couple places, but fried chicken in the US is very common. I love it. But what is the reception around the world? Like, how many other competitors are there in the fried chicken space? I don't know really anything about that.
There are a few of everybody you've ever seen in different places.
Yeah.
The most ubiquitous competitor is KFC. Their business is bigger internationally than it is here in the U.S. And if we have to go compete with them, which I'm fine with, we often win because we have, we're just new, we're fresh, we got products, we got diversity in sauces, diversity in flavor profiles. And that's what consumers generally want, especially those, I used to say my age, I'm a little older now, but those that are, in that 18 to 40 range that have the dollars and want to go buy not only food, but buy the experience I was talking about. So, you got the hero product, you got a shot.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like you're so focused, like you said, on the tenders, like you're so focused on chicken and doing that well that you don't get clouded with all these other products on the menu, that you're focused on doing chicken well.
Absolutely. And look, you can try different products, and brands have often, I think, gone askew by seeing the chicken market rise expensive and then trying to sell something else, hot dogs or whatever. But that's the DNA unraveling. We gotta stay focused, and I spend more of my time now on the business and what we're doing and where we're going. But you cannot, I think, get too far away from where you want to be from a product set if you're going to maintain that focus.
And you mentioned the rise of costs. So how is that the inflation and just the supply chain, all those kind of challenges that we've seen over the last few years impacted?
I gave a big speech at a franchise conference a while back, and I said we have to quit talking about COVID and supply chain. Like it is what it is now. Now I think that COVID and the supply chain chaos for the last couple of years is why we're here. But we got to deal with the reality. I mean, reality is costs are up, interest rates are higher. The consumer has not accepted the rise in costs. I mean, the consumer hasn't caught up to where the economy is today, generally. And you think about World War II, when coffee used to be a nickel, and then it was suddenly $1. And there was, people were aggravated. And I hear my parents are in their 70s now talk about how cheap stuff was. Now it got expensive. Now you pay $6 at Starbucks a cup of coffee. Everybody's accepted that. Consumers in the last 3 years or 5 since COVID are not quite there with the big jump that has happened with this cycle, where groceries are more, energy is more, retail restaurants are a lot more, and we have to maintain a profit level in the face of rising costs. And what does that do? We increase our pricing. That can impact traffic and slow some consumers down. And it isn't like people just defect, but those who might go twice a week might go once, or those who might go twice a month might go once. And so you see traffic. And so then what we have to do is, as we layer in price to make the margin, we have to market and maintain and continue to build traffic. And that's very tricky in today's economic era.
In your experience, how long do you think it'll be before the consumer catches up? Because I've never heard that perspective, but it makes a lot of sense. That, I mean, as a consumer myself, like I'm still denying that.
Yeah, you're pissed
I'm
that
like,
stuff
well,
costs this much
I remember
money,
how much
but-
things
but
cost.
it
I'm
does.
like, it shouldn't be this much. I know, but the reality is, it's just there.
Yeah.
I need to get past COVID. I mean, it makes total sense.
But the flip side is things start becoming more expensive, but then work and demand of income also increases. Like, we're paying more hourly wage than we've ever paid ever. And that's good for the economy. I'm not against that. I want our people to be well paid. I want to be an employer of choice. But it's a tricky balance to make sure that the franchisees in our business makes the appropriate margin to satisfy those of us who own it. And also deliver dollars to the franchisees for their efforts.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, you were just talking about earlier, very tender forward as a restaurant. I was looking at your menu a couple hours ago, and I saw the new dill sandwich, fried dill pickles, fresh dill pickles, pickle aioli.
Oh my gosh.
Who is cultivating? Who's creating these like limited time sandwiches on your team?
It's a big deal,
Yeah, it's a big. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
You'll see that if you scroll through TikTok or Instagram, that's what you'll see.
That's what you think.
It's a big deal. But we have a culinary team. We have a chef, and the marketing crew kind of cultivates ideas. And I was at a restaurant 8 this morning trying a product that I will unfortunately remain anonymous at the moment, because I think we'll roll it out later next year. But I was testing it and trying it, and look, nothing that goes out in the restaurants. I mean, I taste everything. Like, nothing can be done to the menu without me actually tasting it and saying yes, because the food's the thing, right? It's the hero. And I want to be able to say, I tried it and it's great. So we were testing this morning at 8 o'clock. And so instead of eggs, I was eating chicken.
Well, if you need any help with that, we're
We're right down the road.
And breakfast testing. But we have a sandwich profile, several sandwiches. We have our wings. It's always been a big part of the menu. We have grilled tenders. We have sandwiches with wraps and salads. But if you look at the mix of all those things, tenders are still the majority of the mix. And I mean, the majority, like 70% probably of what we sell. But it gives us a chance to expand, a platform and attract new guests. If a guest just wants a sandwich, just wants a particular taste profile, you get them in. Then they might see something else on the menu for next month or next week or whenever it is. And so marketing is not just about, hey, eat the big dill sandwich. It's like, hey, we got this. And remember Slim Chickens. And come in and try it. And look at the rest of the menu. And you got to keep priming the pump and have awareness, product, and then a reason. And then you got to give consumers across the U.S. and Europe, where we are, a reason to continue to try you. And for those of you, all of you all, who are loyal patrons and fans, I appreciate it. But we always need more. And, with the ebbs and tides of the economy, as you said, I'm just not, I realize that, but I don't like it. We've got to keep adding guests, adding traffic, and making sure that those that come see us are happy with what they get.
And as you think about kind of those hook factors, what we touched on a little bit about the differentiator in those international markets, but in the U.S., kind of the domestic market, there are obviously a lot of competitors. What sets Slim Chickens apart in domestically?
Well, we're the only one with 17 different dipping sauces.
Yep.
Our sauces are great.
It's my favorite.
Yep.
We have wings, sandwiches, salads, wraps, tenders. No one has that lineup. But from the very beginning, I think the thing that got us here today is the breading on the tender. Like, the tenders are good. You dip them in honey mustard or ranch, whatever, and it's good.
Cayenne ranch.
That's for your fries. And you get honey mustard tenders, cayenne ranch for fries with a slim sauce, just as an extra. But anyway,
I was going to ask your order. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, my order often is a slim plate with cayenne ranch, slim sauce, and honey mustard. but I also get a sandwich too, because I want to see how they're looking, see how they build it. I tell myself I'm not going to eat it all, but I always do. And, but I
Don't
want
to be wasteful.
I want to see the products. And
Yeah. It's research.
it's research. Yeah, it adds to my waistline, but it's the price we pay.
That's awesome.
So for entrepreneurs that are interested in kind of a field, I've heard others give this advice before, but go and work in that industry
Yes.
to really understand whether or not you even really want to be in that industry. And we touched on it earlier. You spent a lot of time in this industry before you went out and started your own business in it. So how do you think that would that impacted your journey, having worked in that field from the bottom up?
I think that everyone should work in a restaurant, like everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, you did it.
I did.
Everybody should work in a restaurant. You should have to deal with the public. You should have to take care of guests. You should have to be selfless. It's not for you, it's for them. I think it's just good training ground for anything you want to do. I mean, you want to be a doctor, a hedge fund manager, like work at a restaurant for a while.
Learn people skills.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And
a lot of life lessons.
A lot of life lessons, and you figure out how to solve problems. And we always have problems to solve. And I think that for anyone who, for us anyway, the journey that we try to take people on is, look, there's the restaurant you're guest facing. There's the kitchen, and you're working. And it's tough, right? We often, especially here in Northwest Arkansas, you hire college kids, and it's going to be fun. And they get there, God, this is hard.
Oh, we have to actually work.
We're working. But you're working for $16 an hour or 18 or whatever it is. But it's tough, and those are good lessons. But then we take people on the journey in the office, and you take people into the real business. And it's not just selling food. It's like, how do you market? What's the GOI, the guest order incidence? How much labor does it take to deliver this particular product? What's the menu price based on the recipe that you got to make a margin from? But you can't buy that. You buy by the case, but you sell by the piece. And the margin management and the guest order incidents and the guest per labor hour and the traffic count and how you adjust these little things and what counts towards what. There's a huge amount of financial analysis behind the scenes that I have a whole team of guys that do for me, and they'll give you the perspectives, and then you can start doing. You can really get in the high level. You can start marketing for profit versus just awareness. Like, hey, I need to sell this month because the profit's better, because the price is better, but you got to switch in 2 months because we see it coming. And when you're really good, you can start kind of seeing the future and how to manage the marketing calendar, how to manage the sales cycle calendar, and how to really drive dollars to the bottom line and service the guest. Like, you don't want to make a bunch of money and piss everybody off. Then you're over. You want to make money while servicing the guest that wants to be there.
Yeah. An underrated marketing tactic that you guys do that I personally love is coupons. Nobody does coupons anymore, but at our old house that me and my buddies lived in, we got a coupon, every couple of weeks. We always fought over them. So there's one Slim's coupon. It's buy one meal, and it's like get one free. And then me and my buddy would go, and we just split the cost of it. Yeah. And the four of us would always fight over that one coupon.
And two of you guys buying one thing is exactly the guest we don't want. But
We're in a college town.
We're in a college town. I mean, you were there.
If you get into the science of dealing, which is deals, like you do deals for traffic because they don't make money. Like you need to push traffic and get awareness. You start dealing. And we use coupons and FSIs and deals like as a little medicine, a little push here. Or in this part of the country, for a while we had Denver that was a little slower than we wanted it to be. So we kind of pushed it and push it up and push it up. What you don't want to do is get addicted to that heroin because then margins just deteriorate. And so you got to be careful. You don't want to get on that juice and not be able to get off of it.
Sprinkle there.
Because you see dollars coming in, then over time, weeks and months, you see margin kind of dipping down. And, we don't want that.
You're talking about, seeing the future from a marketing perspective. What does the future hold for Slim? What's next? You're on the trajectory for world domination as is. So, what's success? What's next?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just started. We've done this 20 years, but the brand's only been national and out there for maybe the last 10. And there's room in the U.S. for a lot of restaurants. There's room in the world for a lot of restaurants. We have a couple of goals. One, we want to be $1 billion revenue brand. That will happen in 2027. We want to have 1,000 domestic restaurants. We want to have 500 international restaurants. We hit all three of those targets, we'll pick our head up and, put a new target on the wall. But, we've done this for a long time, but, the brand is still relatively young. It's somewhat known around the country now. It didn't used to be at all 10 years ago. I used to go to conferences and I'd wear this and people are like, what is that? Now you go to conference, you're like, hey, come talk to me. Let's talk about this or whatever. But we really have a huge amount of white space available to us. We always have to deal with the economic headwinds. High interest rates slow down construction. That's just a fact of life. We're dealing with that. It's fine. It means the pipeline's a little slower for next year. Okay, got to adjust and change tactics in some areas, some not. It just kind of depends. But as we continue to grow, I think that there is thousands of stores worth of business out there to be had, and we're excited to go tackle it.
Yeah. As you guys continue to grow, how important is it for you guys to stay involved with the Northwest Arkansas community?
I think that people like being here. It's a good place to recruit. I mean, typically the bastions of restaurant professional talent is Atlanta, Dallas, and LA. And so we recruit from those places all the time. Excuse me. Some in Florida. But then people get here and they're like, where is this? No, sorry. What? But they get here and they love it. And we've had many times where folks would commute in and work in different parts of the country and then eventually just move here because it's nice and it's great. I think for us, having our base here has allowed us to really be just geographically central in the U.S., able to get around, able to kind of connect with a normal is not the right word, but just a wide swath of the population that likes our products and what we do. If you're in Miami, it can be a little more specific. If you're in New York City, it can be kind of more specific. If you're in San Francisco, it can be a little more specific and niche. And that's fine. But we want to appeal to everybody. Being here in the middle of the country and this community has helped us do that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I feel it as a University of Arkansas grad, just like Caleb going to Slim Chickens all the time for dinner. Like I feel the community, the importance of Fayetteville, just as a longtime resident myself, like I feel it in the restaurant. So, I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying because I feel it.
Well, in a lot of the UK stores, it says, it all started in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and no one in the UK knows where that is.
That's awesome.
So I asked you to look, I guess, ahead. So now I'm going to ask you to look behind. This is actually a two-part question. First, well, our typical land the plane question is if you had the opportunity to look, go in a time machine, go back in time, give your younger self advice before all the success, with all the accumulated knowledge that you have now, what advice would you give yourself? But I'm also curious, as part of my two-parter, to go back in time. Was there any product that you wanted to try to put on the menu, or like, I guess not a product fail, but something that never made it to the menu? That
I'll answer that one first. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff. But the one we really wanted to do is a po' boy sandwich. We went to New Orleans and ate bread and researched the remoulade recipes and all this. We tried it. And it was so complicated, it just slowed the kitchen down. It was so good.
Sounds so good. My mouth is watering.
But it was, we just couldn't do it fast enough.
Yeah.
And we still have a poster of it hanging in our office because my chief operating officer, Sam Rothschild, he really wanted to do it. He's a culinary guy. And we tried to force that square peg in a round hole, and we just couldn't make it happen. It was just too slow. But the product was amazing.
Sounds good.
As it relates to advice, I get this question a lot, and there's a couple things. One, I might have been a little nicer. I was pretty tough in my young days, but you got the back against the wall. You're going to go bankrupt or succeed. Those are the only two options. And I was pretty hard on vendors, employees, people I knew. I was a much more tougher young guy than I am today. But then you ask yourself, like, would you have gotten here without it? I don't know the answer to that question. I think that looking at financing options and capital earlier, because we were, just dramatically undercapitalized forever, would I have gotten to the same level, or would the company have gotten here faster? And if you sell off or take dollars or take equity or take capital, you own less, but do you get there faster? And do you end up with the same amount of money or wealth or whatever? I mean, very big question. I don't know. We did it all on our own. We, battled it out and fought and scrapped and were broke for years. And it worked. Could it have worked quicker? Could you have achieved this particular financial success faster with a partner, even owning less equity? Those questions are always interesting. And I try to advise young guys and young women who talk to me about entrepreneurship, don't discount it. And you got to look at it from the perspective of the person that's giving you the money. They want to make a return. They have their issues, and they want to make the IRR, and they got to have downside protection and all this stuff. So that you can't blame them for that. You got to find a way to meet in the middle if you want to do that. I'm 49. Could I have been where I am today financially and business-wise at 35 if I'd have taken an equity partner earlier? Who knows, right? I mean, but my advice is, like, don't close that door. I mean, conversation's free. Listen, something good might come out of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this really tasty sounding conversation. I mean, I'm starving.
Like, you guys need to go. I mean,
we gotta go. I think,
you gotta go.
Team lunch
right down the road.
But how can our listeners get to know more about Slim Chickens, get to know more with you? How can they get connected?
Look, we love entrepreneurship. We love Startup Junkie. Like I said, we've had a long relationship with Jeff and the team, and we're happy to have that relationship. Slimchickens.com is kind of the website for the business. Info@slimchickens.com is a email that people use to get to me, anybody else, or questions or generic. And if questions come through you guys, I'm happy to try to respond. So
Awesome.
We appreciate it
Yeah.
very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Of course.
Ecosystem builders, entrepreneurs, chambers of commerce, mayors. If you're interested in taking your economic future into your own hands, we've got a book that can help you. Creating Startup Junkies, Building Sustainable Venture Ecosystems in Unexpected Places is the guide. It's a little bit inspiration. It's a little bit toolkit. What it will allow you to do is take your economic future into your own hands and build a sustainable small business, innovation, and entrepreneurial ecosystem in your backyard. If you'd like to hear more, check out creatingstartupjunkies.com. The Startup Junkie podcast reaches over 100 countries and has had over 100,000 downloads. If you're interested in reaching some of the most motivated and engaged innovators and entrepreneurs on a worldwide basis, give us a shout.